earth is that noise? Are you okay?
Fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee. No team is better than Vitality. Medic, there's a bee swarm coming.
I'm trying to prep. I'm the host. It's my first time hosting, but you can't. What is this?
Hey, Medic, I'm outside of my trophy room and I'm trying to decide how I'm going to fit them in. So I need more blue wall in the trophy room.
Oh, a blue wall,
yeah.
really?
So
Yeah,
which one do you prefer? Like, what one do you think? I'm thinking this one to start off.
Care
Maybe
about
this-
your blue wall.
What does the fox say? LD, LDLC, LD,
No,
LD.
like,
No,
if you-
get away from me!
Like, look, which colour blue? I just need to know. I mean, what do you think?
Finally, some peace and quiet.
Balskaguram! Balskaguram!
No, 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 no!
Balskaguram! Balskaguram!
Na miejscu, Sinmivak, ty poradzi sobie z midlane, teraz niebieska gaming, bardzo dobry timing, losu kajtuje, ale no!
East is chaos all over the map.
Oh,
Our
Duel,
next 7
sorry.
are ahead of the play. Goodbye, Duel.
Now Shikari's in trouble, he's gonna try and find his way out, wait for the Shadow Surge! And the Rocket just goes wide, but a final auto secures it anyway!
Hello everyone and welcome to the Amazon EU Masters semi-finals. And after some of the best acting I have ever seen in the history of esports, it is my pleasure to welcome you all here today. It's been Vive la France so far in the knockout stage, but tonight, the last hope of the Ultra Liga, AGO Rogue, look to craft the party versus the undefeated LDLC. I'm Medic and I am joined today by Nymira and Dagda. How are you guys feeling about our Oscars that are coming in the post?
I mean, I'm happy now that I got your stamp of approval. You know, that's all I really needed. I can go home now. But, I mean, look, I got to see if the Polish representative can do it as well.
I'm glad to have your seal of approval. You know, I've learned a lot of skills over this split, but this one's really just adding on to it. But I'm really hoping that these teams aren't going to be acting out anything less than a really high level of League of Legends because, you know, our quarterfinals were quite stompy. Would love to see a close contest here.
Definitely. I think so far the knockout stage has kind of been dominated by the LFL. It's been an LFL showcase. And as they have 3 teams in the semi-finals, it's only AGO Rogue as the odd one out from the Ultra Liga. Guys, looking across this bracket, there's a few standout teams with LDLC definitely being at the top.
Yeah, and they're my favorite at the moment. Like, I've kind of been looking at these guys going, I love the way that they play the early stages of the game. I think they're the best team that we have at understanding how to play side lanes in the mid game. It means they're able to come back from a lot of those losses where they've kind of fumbled the early game. I think this team just looks so good across the board.
And I think for me, you know, it would be kind of easy to go towards a team like Karmine Corp because of their history, because of their pedigree. I would love to focus on Vitality B, though. I think that they are a very dynamic, exciting early game team who still have that mid-game power that all LFL teams show. So I think actually looking to the other side of the bracket from the matchup we have today, Vitality B are the teams I think are favorites to go to finals.
I think they're favorites to go to finals.
I think they
That
are.
is a bold prediction, I'm going to say, especially against the blue wall. We saw them looking for their trophy cabinet earlier today, what colors they should have. Like,
it wouldn't be an easy series, of course.
Oh,
but
no, of course
I
not.
think they are really an exciting team, and they are one of the teams which I think that we need to really keep eyes on.
I definitely agree with that. Rob, would you agree with the sentiment that that series tomorrow is likely to look closer than the series today?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to watch. I think Vitality B have really good set plays, and we could see it against Fnatic where they're looking for these dives, trying to make kind of a ruckus in the early stages. But I got to see if Karmine Corp, especially when they're able to play through the mid lane, play through Cabochard on the top side, if they can look to take over top side of the map, while the other side, Vitality B, are looking for those plays on the bottom side.
Well, we'll see what happens tomorrow, but that is 24 hours away. LDLC today, though, are undefeated so far at the Amazon EU Masters, and the LFL champions are marching towards yet another final. 9-0. Many people are calling them the favorites to win it all. What is it that makes this LDLC lineup so powerful?
So I think for me, it starts with their jungle support. I think that Yike and DOS are so good at if they're not going to kill you early, they will still achieve whatever checklist they need to do from the early game. I think that they set up their lanes for success. They make sure the map's in order, and they're so good at just making sure you're not able to shut them out of a game, and they get towards their team fights and the later stages of the game where they're very powerful.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that lends itself from their vision control, both in the early game and the mid game. I love the way we get these level 1 invades to set Yike up with the information he needs to play the jungler. And then as well, when you look towards that mid game, they're so good at pushing sides, playing off the vision that they've set up at objectives, looking for uneven fights. And it means that you never really get to fight evenly against LDLC because they always just seem to be one step ahead.
That early game jungle support synergy is something we talk about so often across all of League of Legends. You know, looking into MSI, it's something you focus on for the best teams in the world. And here, Yike and DOS really seem to have a strong synergy. I know we actually have some clips of just how well they've played together across the course of the tournament so far. If you're looking at it, what specifically is it that they're doing so well?
I think what they end up really doing well is they bait in plays around the map and they're there to respond. I don't think that often the team which puts the front foot forward, but they make you come into them and they smack you so hard when they go for the plays. Of course, that was a clip from their quarterfinals versus X7, and that mid lane play with that Nocturne was one which just kind of ended the game off of it. They're so good at reading the pace of the game, turning up at the right spot, taking huge advantages, running away with the game.
Yeah, and I think a large part of this, again, kind of stems from their ability to control these early lanes. And I think a lot of that does stem from Yike, his understanding of how he needs the path to shadow the right lanes at the right time and kind of linking up with DOS, as Nymera says, to kind of punish those mid lane plays that attempted to be made are really crucial. And I think that's something that we're going to have to try and see coming in to today if AGO can actually try and bypass this early game, because it's just looking so damn strong from LDLC.
Yeah, something we so often mention is that vision control as well when you're talking about jungle mid synergy, jungle support synergy, and that's something that LDLC do so well. I do want to move a little bit onto the other side of the coin, because looking at the stats behind us, LDLC have been dominant through every portion of the game. Their early game, a couple of times against X7, looked a little bit weak. AGO have struggled in that early game, but have played sort of the team fighting the later portions of the game a bit stronger. How do you think AGO can actually match up into LDLC today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is going to be trying to deny that level 1 vision that we already talked about. Like, this is something that's so crucial to the LDLC game plan. And from that, I want to see almost what we saw from AGO against Bifrost, right? I want to see these aggressive early junglers like the Trundle, the Jarvins, these kind of things that can go for level 2, level 3 ganks, yeah. But the big thing is trying to set up this mid lane in favor of them and then leaning that pressure down to the bottom side of the map, because it feels like that's where so much of the game plan from LDLC can be disrupted. If you get mid and bot behind, well, then suddenly they can't get the vision control. They can't set up for objectives, and that's where they can start to falter.
I mean, it makes sense, but it's not the easiest thing to do in the world. Is it? Like, LDLC have looked so good in the early game. And Nymera, before we move on to the draft, would you agree with the sentiment, or do you think there's anywhere else that AGO can attack?
I think it has to start there, because I think when you look at LDLC in the mid game, they're just very hard to deal with. So it has to start before that. You can't give them that even platform. For me, it's in a bit more of a waffle sense. It's more about Rogue
Waffles,
playing
pancakes, you can have whatever you want.
playing their own style of their game, because they come in as a very unique team. They pick different stuff. They play in a different way. They just need to make sure they're not going to march to the beat of LDLC's drum. Stick to your style. Try and play that out.
I mean, that makes sense. And speaking of their style, their drafts have been something we've looked at a lot across the course of this tournament, bringing out Twitch Yuumi, Ivan Rengar. Like, they are a very experimental team. And as we look more into their draft, where are the key points you think they can focus?
So actually one stat which I had to look up a lot in the green room just before we came on, they are the only team in the entirety of this competition, play-ins included, that have not played the 3 most picked bot laners. They haven't picked Xayah, Aphelios, or Jinx. Haven't played them at all. Only team in the competition to do so. And they have such a flexibility, not just there, but elsewhere on the map too.
Yeah, I also think it's going to be super interesting to see how that flexibility pans out, right? Because traditionally, when I think about AGO, I think, oh, they want to get the counter pick for carry top for Sinmivak, right? But I actually think this draft is going to be super crucial, where you're actually looking at mid lane counter pick. And it's something that when you do have these wild champion pools, you can definitely go for. It's something that we saw a lot for AGO against Bifrost. And I think that mid counter pick is going to be crucial to trying to set up these strong mid jungles and then playing through that and shutting down your opposition.
And of course, with LDLC having side selection, they've selected red side, which makes that mid counter pick even more important and even harder to get, because you have to choose and have to prioritize how you're going to find your counter picks. We do have a draft up behind us here. I know, Nymera, you had some key points about how AGO are focusing out the usual priority picks.
For sure, because it does feel like, again, they found a lot of unorthodox answers to quite orthodox power picks. So we see the Yuumi on the board here. We saw the Zeri. Now, that was actually a first-round Zeri picked up by Bifrost in the quarterfinals, obviously. So it's a very, very high-presence champion. They lock away that Yuumi, and later on, they'd lock in the Twitch, which is not really something that we've seen a lot through a lot of other regions and a lot of other teams playing, but it gives them late-game options. It gives them early-game safety because the Zeri can't really punish it. Sure. And the fact that they are heads up enough to notice that mid-draft and have something in the back pocket to pull out really excites me about this team. I wonder if they can do that today again.
Yeah, and also what I loved about these drafts we saw against Bifrost was preparation. Like, you know, Bifrost's early game hasn't been the strongest, so what do? They come in with these super late game scaling drafts where they're able to play towards a late game team fight. And I think that says a lot about not only the champion pools, but the coaching staff as well, guys like Bloomigan, who are coming in and coming up with ideas of how they want to try and approach each individual team. And
of course, those individual approaches have to then be brought to the fore by the players. Nite specifically is a player that's really impressed us across the course of the last few weeks. Nightmare, what is it about this guy that really shines?
He really plays Ahri well. That's the one thing I look for in mid laners. Actually, you know, I don't know if you know, I play the champion, but I think seriously for this player in particular, it allowed them to, as a team, play very aggressively early game, had that setup, again, mechanics on point, making sure that they understand the damage that they're playing around their own HP bar, allow them to be a real playmaker in this series and across the whole competition.
Yeah, and I think this is something that Nite has stepped up massively to do, because when you look at his growth from the Ultra League of playoffs in through EU Masters, where he's still kind of playing things like are behind me with like the Ivern and these kind of more supportive mid laners, we've now seen him take a next step again into kind of being more of a carry-oriented pick. If you look at like his gold that he had coming through from the Ultra League, he's about 20% of the team's gold. Now moving up to 23% of the team's gold, 26% of their damage. This guy has really stepped up to be a carry in playoffs for Ego Rogue, which I think is something that we haven't really seen from him before, where he's been more of a facilitator, even dropping waves to move to side lanes and giving that space to Rabble.
And that balance between the two mid laners in this draft is going to be so important. You see the shared champion pool behind you, only Viego and Ahri. I'm sure you're very happy the Ahri's there.
There we go.
Shared between them. But whether or not we'll see a Nite playing towards more playmakers, more eclectic picks like the Ivern, whether we'll see Eika just trying to solo dominate the lane is going to be a very interesting discussion to have. However, that's enough about LDLC for now. I think we've talked a little bit about Aggo Rogue as well, but I know with Aggo Rogue being the final hope of the Ultra Liga, the only non-LFL team still left at the Amazon EU Masters, Trouble is here to set the stage for our former champions.
2020 summer, the Ultra Liga's biggest success story. Aggo Rogue wins it all. With an assertive run through the entire playoffs, not dropping a single game, they crown themselves champions of the ERLs. One of the most promising rosters to ever grace the Amazon European Master Stage, with names like Sigenda, Sanzara, Chekolad, Woolite, and Trimby. 4 out of 5 members of this roster were instantly picked up to join the LEC after their huge success back then. Rogue has always used their academy team as a factory of development for new talent, constantly scouting and picking up new promising rookies that will eventually make it big in the scene. Maybe names like Inspired or Larson ring a bell. That being said though, 2021 was a difficult year for the Ultra Liga as a whole, struggling to get teams out of groups or replicating any past success. And here is where the rebuild comes in. This season, alongside rookie talent, they have invested in a veteran mid-jungle duo in the likes of Nite and Rabble. They have spent the last 3 years playing alongside each other, which has created unmatched synergy among the two. They have previously made it all the way to the European Masters Finals, stopped dead in the tracks by none other than their team they have just joined. Will their veterancy and champion diversity, though, be enough to bring them success once more? Today, the Ultra Liga and their last remaining hope, the same team that brought them the success back in 2020 summer, Aggo Rogue, are faced with their greatest challenge yet. Today, they have to face the ultimate tournament favorites, LDLC, for a shot at the finals, for a shot at breaking the back-to-back-to-back LFL victories. Because in the Amazon European Masters, it's not about being the favorite, it's about becoming the favorite.
Incredible stuff, Trouble. Thank you so much for setting the picture for our underdogs, Aggo Rogue. Now, before we get into draft, guys, I want to ask your predictions. It feels to me very LDLC favored, but Nymira, what are you thinking?
I'm going close to my heart, going with the Foxes 3-0 LDLC.
3-0, okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're underdogs. I still think Aggo Rogue can take up one, but I think it'll be 3-1.
Okay, so we've got one guy who's just sticking with the favorites and one guy that's hedging his bets. Good to know,
I'm from the
guys.
LPL, right?
I was hoping my analysts would be a little bit stronger about these things, but that's it from us for now. A spot in Saturday's final is on the line tonight as undefeated LDLC and Ultra League's last hope in Aggo Rogue face-off. Viperoon, let's kick off the 2022 Amazon EU Masters semi-finals.
Thank you very much, Desk. I'm Viper, joined by Gulbog and Trouble alongside me for this best of 5 series. Although, our Desk, they're not believing in the best of 5, are they?
I mean, I don't know. We gave some predictions. You should probably go over to EU Masters Instagram as well to check out maybe our predictions as well. But I feel like our opinions vary a little bit here. I think like you said that maybe a Go Rogue takes the series.
I'm holding out. I'm holding out for the victory for Aggo Rogue. Don't know if it'll come through, but we're going to find out as we move swiftly into champs. The next one was Aggo Rogue on the blue side, LDLC on the red, and Ornn immediately removed.
What I'm very curious about this series is the fact that last time that Bifrost was playing the quarterfinals against Aggo Rogue as well, the bans that came out was the Rengar, it was the Lilia, and I gotta be honest, I was actually a little disappointed by that due to the fact that I understand you don't want to play against the Rengar because the Ivern combo would come out, but seeing the Lilia ban to me was too weak of a pick going through the bans. I feel like if you want to be experimental, at least try and do it in the first games, then if you realize, okay, we can't actually play against this, ban it and fight them on even footing. This time around though, LDLC, they do pay them respect by banning out the Rengar.
And I think they're gonna not respect the Lilia at this point because I completely agree with you. At this point, I don't think it's something that needs to be banned straight away, especially since Rogue really like to run their very creative drafts as well. So you just wait to see maybe what comes out. Maybe you can counter it with something else. I feel like LDLC really stick to their guns. I really love the fact that also Eika's Ahri has been completely pulled away from him, and Nite is going to be sporting it in the mid lane right now.
Yeah, it's something Nite has been happy about to gain for himself as well, gaining that mid lane priority, allowing him to play from Rabble as well. It's something that both junglers are very reliant at, getting their mid laners ahead, so the junglers can be facilitated, because that's the story as well today. It's not so much that the junglers are the one helping laners, it's laners helping junglers.
And I was just hoping, I'm like, we could potentially see Yike run towards something like maybe the Lee Sin or the Viego that he really likes, or the Jarvan, which pairs up really well with the LeBlanc. LeBlanc versus Ahri is one of the skill matchups that we've seen possibly like the most maybe this Amazon European Masters. So I'm really excited to see Eika running this one, because it's one of the 3 champions that he actually does not share with Nite, whilst Nite shares the entire champion pool.
And interesting as well, Locker will get his Ezreal locked through. It is a champion that he's been playing a lot in the past as well, and very synonymous with as well when it was picked. But this is also a guy who's very versatile in terms of champion pool. We've seen the Twitch, we've seen the Soraka, we've seen the Ivern, we've seen loads of stuff to come through from the bot side. But Aggo Rogue coming into this one, they're actually playing it very normal, I'd say, which is not something we would usually say around
You
the
say
likes of
that,
Aggo Rogue.
but we haven't seen the rest yet.
For now, for now, all right. Third pick to come through here. Wonder if they're looking for a support matchup into the that you just want to go through with before you get into the second ban phase. You just put DOS in a favorable position, but no.
Here it comes.
There we have it.
We were talking about this one a little bit earlier, of course. It's a bit strange to think that this is a shared champion between these 2 junglers. Both of them have liked the Kha'Zix. Sadly, unlikely to see a Rengar on the other side, but we can dream. Rogue, we've seen them do crazy. Oh, it's banned, so we won't be seeing it. But I can believe later on in the series, perhaps.
So I feel like everything from a Go Rogue so far is sort of like taking away champions that LDLC would love to have in their hands. Like Eika's Ahri, so important. Yike's Viego as well, so important. Just take them away and play more of a kite back with a little bit of a peak potential. That's what I'm seeing from the Ezreal here, and that's what I'm seeing from the Viego. But what I'm also seeing is that since you have Viego, Ahri, and Ezreal, and Yuumi, which slot in very well, and LDLC have sniffed that as well as the Foxes they are, and banned it away.
Yeah, actually, looking at LDLC right now, I'm kind of thinking of, do you want the last pick for your support, or do you kind of want it for Ragner here? Ragner has been so pivotal in some of the early games as well from LDLC, just due to how good he actually is up in that top lane, usually getting a few solo kills for himself too, at least I've seen it. And coming in with the composition we're looking at right now currently from LDC, they're lacking some hard engage. Yeah, you got the skirmishing potential between a Kha'Zix and a LeBlanc, but right now there isn't really that one that just hits the spot. So you might have it come through.
It depends whether they want to be going for this. They're going to lock it in, so it goes alongside the Xayah, of course, all the synergies that brings, but they are going to be giving that counter pick up into the top side for Ragnar. Now it's on Sinmivak to decide what he wants to be going for, and they need a support alongside them as well, considering the heavy engage in Nautilus.
So I really like the Nautilus right here because you can chase after all of these champions. Obviously, Xayah has the R button to get away from the Nautilus ultimate, but every single other champion that wants to jump away will get hit by the last the pop-up, and then you can follow up maybe with a Viego or an Ahri charm. So I really like this. Now I'm wondering what they're going to just put towards the top side of the map, because Ragner has showed the Aatrox and the Gangplank. Everything else so far has been banned away. So do you maybe go with something more aggressive? Maybe you see the Jayce coming out, maybe you see the Lucian coming out for Sinmivak. He's hovering right now, the Jayce, and it could be a potential choice for him. But on the other side, you know, you've left Camille open.
You have left Camille open, but my main concern currently from LDLC is that they're very squishy. And yes, I think locking in that Malphite right there is so pivotal. Top side of the map with the jungler and the top laner as well, obviously from Sinmivak on the Jayce, is going to be pure AD base. So as a weak side, you don't really have to worry about a dive coming through on you. You will just be itemizing on that armor. You will be that frontline engaged, as we talked about as well. They're already very squishy. They need the Malphite to go in first, have the Rakan be the follow-up, because if Rakan was the only main of engage, he would just get seized up, blown apart, and all of a sudden LDLC would really struggle to fight. So I think LDLC, they saved their draft a little bit there by coming in with a Malphite pick.
I mean, I really like having that Malphite to be able to come through. As you mentioned, the Rakan being able to follow up, being that secondary engage almost, is really nice. And there are a load of priority targets here on the Viego rogue side that you want to be hitting with some fast, easy CC. And, I mean, Malphite, there's no one really better than him.
I'm actually siding with a Go Rogues draft here.
See, you're believing.
I am a believer because of the draft. I feel like Ezreal and Ahri are so slippery, really hard to be hit by someone like Rakan or a Malphite, which has more of a predictable ultimate than Rakan. And I feel if they can get out, maybe it would be a possibility. But we're going to have to wait and see as we jump onto the reef for our first semi-final for this Amazon European Masters.
Viego Rogue on the blue side, LDLC on the red. Are we set up for the all LFL final? We're going to find out after this. Well, of course, the other side, the bracket, K-Corp and Vitality B, both coming out of the French League, joined by LDLC in this one. The favourites for the tournament, some are saying. But Viego Rogue have had an exceptional tournament so far, especially in those quarterfinals. They're going to be putting up a big test.
Yeah, anticipating an invade here in the early game. Usually with Rakan, what we'll see from them is that they start W, they go with the wall, try to go into a bush, catch someone off guard. They wanted to be ready for that, but no one on LDLC got to be aggressive. And because of that, they just drop a ward in River. They drop a ward at the early entrance of the red buff, so they can keep track of Rabble if he decides to go in on any counter jungle shenanigans.
And you see that they're still like buckling up on that particular burst because they're expecting Yike to do that late invade towards the red buff. But something that has been really interesting in general about Yike, and I'd like to keep our eyes on for this particular game as well, now that he's on Kha'Zix, is that on every other champion except the Kha'Zix, he has been full clearing his entire jungle. He'll do a full clear from red side to blue, and then he will try to move into the Raptors to try and check for possible shenanigans there. Now with the Kha'Zix, you might even look for something earlier, because Eika on the LeBlanc will most likely take a very aggressive trade towards Nite. And usually what you want to do with LeBlanc is you want to trade someone's HP, because Ahri has more wave clear at this point.
And it's very interesting between these two junglers specifically. Most of our junglers in the league, they're all about, okay, let me get my laners ahead. Let them get a lead, and then we play around together around the Drake objective later, or anything like that. But no one of our junglers here today are that kind of jungler. They love to have low jungle proximity, meaning that they're very much about being in their own jungle. The laners are the one coming to them when they want to facilitate them. And quite often, on their second clear or third clear, they will be in the enemy jungle. They will be trying to take away the enemy Raptors. So what I'm expecting, at least from the get-go here, is that we'll see them just clear their jungle camps. We'll wait for them to get on the second clear, and then depending on where their laners currently have that lane, they will be trying to make aggressive moves.
And I mean, I'm very excited because we've got this Ahri and this LeBlanc in the mid lane. These are two champions that can get involved in skirmishes early. They're able to move into the jungle and support. When you've got people more like the Victor who can get that priority in lane but aren't necessarily able to go through and really scrap 2v2 early, then things can be a little bit more tricky. But as we can see, Nite and Eika already going at each other.
And I'd like to set up some micro as well, just to, when it finally happens in the game, we can talk about it too. But Nite with the charm, of course, will be able to cancel the dashes. So if Eika dashes forward with the W on the LeBlanc, can be cancelled. If DOS dashes forward with the W as well, can be cancelled. The same goes for Yike as well. So there is actually some micro potential for Nite to set up some huge outplays. But for now, it's all about just going, be about farming these lanes, waiting for the level 6s to come through, waiting for the priority to play around, and that's where we get aggressive.
And again, you see what we mentioned earlier, right? That the LeBlanc will trade into the Ahri, will chunk down the Ahri, and then will have first movement onto the river if Eika wants to. And that has been the case the entire time. As you mentioned, you want to facilitate your jungler if you are on LDLC. And yeah, it does the exact same thing that we mentioned as well. He will clear, and he will go to Raptors, and he will get first blood.
He's gone. Simple as that. You could already see the movement. Rabble's coming in response, but needs to be a little bit careful. It's a 2v1. I don't know if he wins this fight. Yike's put some damage down. He will be able to get back to his tower. But just like that, it's first blood, LFL.
And we mentioned exactly the steps Yike is going to take. He's going to go top side, he's going to clear his bot side, and then he's going to invade Raptors. Once he goes to Raptors and see that they've been cleared, he moves straight into mid lane. Nite moves a little bit too far forward, doesn't even use his flash right there, and ends up going down. That is massive for the jungle, because if you look now in the inventory, Kha'Zix has backed. He's already got the whip, which means that from now on, he's going to be looking for that Viego. And since the LeBlanc will always have priority over the Ahri because of the chunking that we mentioned earlier, I think that Yike and Eika are going to be a deadly duo.
And that is also just the story of today, the mid laners. So far, we haven't really seen them fall behind, but let's have a look at the replay once again. As you mentioned yourself, Trouble, Nite has just been taking too many traits that Eika has come out across as the favorable person. And yeah, I mean, there's not much to it. They just get blown up.
So let's have another deeper look. We're down in the bot lane, LFL versus Exakick. Two players who have been talked about a whole bunch so far in this tournament, but they've got so much ability to dominate the Rift.
Exactly, and I think specifically for these bot laners with the versatility that we've talked about so many times, it will come in, but probably later into the game. So far, though, it has just been about trading. It has been about moving around on the map and specifically moving around into the mid lane. But for now, just back to clearing between the two junglers, seeing if they can get that tracking down. So far, LDLC with the better tracking, with the better vision. We see the aggressive pink wards, and we see that they want to know where Rabble is going.
Keeping our eyes down here just to make sure that there's not going to be any kind of aggressive place around for them. Pre-level 6, unlikely at this time. But let's just keep our eyes across the map. Yike now going to be moving forward a little bit, just getting towards this dragon. Infernal will be the one to start us off, and it looks like he might actually just want to start this one up.
Yeah, and especially since you will know that this dragon is being started from the side of a Go Rogue. You have the priority down bot. You see that the bot lane of LDLC moved towards the top side as well, towards the river. You know that Yike is going to be around. I'm looking at Rabble, I'm like, what have you got? Because usually when you have a Jayce in your team, you want to play towards the top side of the map. You want to start stacking waves and dive permanently that tank. But especially because of what Gubok mentioned as well in the draft, it's like this Malphite, all he has to do is just start stacking ammo, potentially get maybe an Anathema's chain later on for the Ahri, and he's set for the entire game. But right now, he doesn't have these defenses. He doesn't have these resources on him, and Sinmivak has been doing a fantastic job at shoving waves over and over again. But because of that disruption in the mid lane, because Rabble had to waste his time in the mid lane to keep the wave where it is for his mid laner going down, it has sort of disrupted all these wave building that Sinmivak has been doing in the top side of the map, and we haven't necessarily seen any aggression yet.
Yeah, and that's so interesting as well. That's kind of how a Go Rogue has won that game. It has been from their solo laner's prowess. It's been them getting a lead, and the only time we really saw Go Rogue contested in groups, the two losses they were handed, that was when they were playing against Vitality B, who had arguably the better laners, who had the better players, and all of a sudden, with Rabble not having the facilitation by Nite, by Sinmivak, as he usually would have, they were struggling. This time around again, it was Eika and Yike that struck first. This is a best of 5, of course, but this will be the story of today's series. Mid-jungle, most of the time, will be the talking point in the early game.
And I'm also a little bit surprised out there, because we saw Rabble shadowing the bot lane a little bit, whilst the dragon had gone down for a while now, so you know that the Kha'Zix is not going to be towards the bot side of the map. He's going to probably reset, cash in on the gold, and go towards the top side of the map where he started previously. So I feel like Rabble might be a little bit behind when it comes to trying to track Yike onto the map, which is very arguably positive for the Kha'Zix. As long as people do not know where you are, you can't take this isolation trait, and we saw what happened tonight once he steps a little bit too far forward.
Exactly, we saw exactly what happened. Nite going down for that first blood. The gold lead isn't massive at the moment. Ego Rogue managing to hold their own in a lot of different positions, which is great for them, because this is a team that isn't necessarily the ones that want to take the bull by the horns, as it were, in these early exchanges. They're happy to go through into that 15-minute mark, even or very slightly ahead, and they can still pull off big plays. However, for LDLC, they'll be reasonably happy with what's going on as Rift House started up.
It's such an interesting dynamic when you mention that as well, because before a Go Rogue came into European Masters, they were exactly like LDLC in the early game. They were the one who got ahead. Now, speaking of priority, once again coming in from the bot laners, with Rift Herald started up, we can see beansu's making his move off. Dust is making his move. They might be a little delayed, but the rest of LDLC, they're ready to contest.
And Malphite does have the magic button as well.
Let's keep an eye on this one. They're going to be smited away, but that's the ultimate onto 2. That's huge as Yike follows through. Looking for Nite, but he's going to be able to dash away. Followed through by Eika. Looking for that last order, that can't find it. As Nite makes quick and leads. Big ultimate from beansu will catch out members, but now everyone's coming through. It's a full-fledged team fight very early on as LeBlanc now moving forward. Cuts down, Rabble grabbing Ragner as Yike moves to the wind. Will be able to escape.
And crucially in that team fight too, you look at the levels. beansu, he's level 6. Dust, he's level 5. They had an ultimate advantage. It was so easy for them to fight out this one. Where the LDLC, yes, they had the proactivity. Yes, they had the engagement immediately. But when they couldn't shut down the kill immediately, the fight just faltered.
And I want you to look at the map right now, because you don't just see the Nautilus, you see both the Nautilus and Ezreal moving onto the map. And you see how Nite is baiting, getting everyone survived with a sliver of health, but still everyone is chasing to kill that Ahri. And when they go too deep, you have a Viego right there that can get reset after reset after reset. He resets, he gets the Malphite, he will get over the map, and by the time this is over, Ezreal and Nautilus are there to also save the day.
And it's massive tunnel vision going towards the Ahri, who's such a slippery champion to grab onto. Exakick, the only member of both teams not to be involved, grabs a couple of plates.
And that has been the case for the entire quarterfinals for LDLC as well, right? Every time there was a play on the map for LDLC, even if they lost that play, Exakick will stay bot of the map. He would take plating after plating after plating. He would become so strong that by the time LDLC chose to take the fight, he would be such a strong AD carry with so many items on him that it wouldn't matter if they lost a couple of fights. If you look at the gold, it's whatever. For LDLC are still ahead. They still have the dragon.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It was a dead objective that never got picked up, so what we only got out of it was the fight, and that fight allowed Rabble to gain a gold advantage against Yike. So between the two junglers, 300 gold lead has gone over to Rabble. It's not going to mean much right now, but when we get into more clears, he start clearing them faster. He'd start being the one with the counter jungler with a level advantage now as well. We might see the tide swing a little bit, but we need to see the link up. We need to see Rabble move around with beansu. Dust has been very good at link up so far. I want to see it being responded by a Go Rogue.
Absolutely, Rakan has been all over the map, maybe hasn't been able to get involved with too many individual kills, but has been being a little bit more proactive than we've seen beansu so far in this game. But of course, the Nautilus is going to be very impactful. We saw it already in that last team fight. He could be looking maybe to leave the Ezreal, who we know is a safe bot laner, can self-peel and get around the map.
And I'm actually very surprised, because if we look at the map right now, Yike was waiting on the top side burst for quite a while, right? He's fallen 20 CS behind to Rabble. Rabble is level 8 right now, while Yike is level 7. And even though he's playing the Kha'Zix and he should technically be farming to be very scary later on together with the LeBlanc or bundle up with the LeBlanc, we haven't necessarily seen that. And Rabble so far seems to be coming up ahead.
And on top side, you can see it. They want to just crash this in. Ragner, he's already so beefy. He should be able to get out of this with unstoppable force.
I don't know, a lot of damage coming down the ultimate from Viego and catches him on the very edge of the sword.
Little bit of a blunder. I don't know if I just missed the ultimate wasn't up there, but for now it least is. And yeah, you tell me it is. At least two Drakes does go over to LDLC. They get the cross map to come through. Nice pickup from Sinmivak and Rabble, but I can't help but feel like it came to Rabble's own mistake.
At this point, I'm gonna play devil's advocate right here and say it's still worth for LDLC. If you look both sides of the map, plus 15 CS for Exakick, they take those. 2 dragons already down the line, they take those. The only problem for them will be when Sinmivak on that Jayce start joining these dragon fights, when LDLC is going to have to be playing through these small choke points. And mind you, this is also a mountain rift that we have right now, so the choke points have gotten even narrower. So once this shock blast start landing with the eclipse that he has right now, because he's so far ahead, are going to hurt a lot.
I think, though you mentioned the mountain rifts, Malphite's going to love that if they can get involved. The dominance at the moment has been for LDLC on these dragons. If he can get even beefier, it's going to become so much easier for him to engage into these fights and then not really care about anyone except Nite until, as you mentioned, the anathemas chains might come through.
Oh, it's also just due to the fact that you take a look at the itemization coming through from Nite. Already with the boots, he's gone for Merc Treads instead. Magic Pen is not going to be coming through. When you're playing against a Mountain Drake, that penetration, that goes a long way. And now that you don't have it, well, you're going to be dealing even less damage. You're the only AP damage dealer as well. So the fact that he's already down 1 kill, or at least 1 death here, and he's falling behind in the laning phase, it's not a good side from a Go Rogue, but there's still the pick potential in him. But I think we just need to set the stake. The longer this game goes, the more Drake's being stacked for LDLC,
That's gonna
the more
spot
the
them.
game goes away from a Go Rogue.
Nice ultimate coming on through. Ragner needs to be a little bit careful on the tower though. We'll be able to dash away. Dos gets the
He's
first
dead.
kill of the fight. Yike goes down as well though. LDLC trying to escape, but Rabble looking to try and get the resets. It's a double for the Viego. Looking for more as Nite turns up to the fray. Can they land the charm? Looking towards Dos. Ike is there as well. We'll get a bit of damage down. The charm goes wide, but the damage is still good. Dos goes gold and might be able to survive a second longer. beansu there with the ult, but it'll have to be a dive if they want to get a kill. Not enough damage as Dos gets away.
And we mentioned one of the win conditions for the side of Go Rogue is their mid-jungle synergy. Nite following Rabble around. Rabble playing that Viego, taking it away from Yike, which he's so strong on, and getting reset after reset. 4-0 for the Ultra Liga jungler right there. Level 9 to level 8 for him as well. He's always been ahead. He's been ahead of the play. He's cashing in the kills and the CS.
And I think it's coming in at a really good time from the Go Rogue as well. If they don't deter this dive, if suddenly LDLC take it over again, they pick up all the kills, I'm going to make the statement that the game is already running away from them, right? Due to the Drakes we also just mentioned before. But it's so nice to see come out from Rabble and Nite, as you mentioned specifically. They have been a jungle mid-duo since 2019. The experienced viewer will know this as well, but the synergy has always been there for them.
Can I also tip my hat to Dos right there for his amazing footwork at dodging pretty much everything thrown at him.
Exakick once again going to be the beneficiary of plays happening on the other side of the map. That's first tower going down to LDLC. And while we're saying the game might be running away from them a little bit in the top side, they're still able to make things happen.
And Dos now being able to just clear out some vision, making sure they stay aggressive on it. We've been talking about these junglers as well. Rabble clearing out his own jungle at the moment, currently 1 level ahead. 4 kills, 20 CS ahead as well. And yeah, it's just looking good for him, honestly.
We might have some stats for you as well for Rabble, because he has been the one, there we go, he has been the one that we've been highlighting, and in groups he has been such a pivotal part for our Go Rogue. You mentioned also Gulbuk, how he does like to be in his jungle very early farming, and then he uses that advantage to push further, ahead in gold at 8, ahead in XP at 8.
I was talking to this that guy about this one. I was like, listen, I've been watching a lot of Rabble now. Can you give me the statistics of his jungle proximity? And it was like, yeah, it's one of the lowest in the league. He must really hate his laners, is what the stat guy was telling me. And, you know, I don't think it's necessarily that, but Rabble is just very happy to gain his own leads as an individual, not so much playing around the teammates, but having teammates playing around him.
Maybe his laners love him.
Oh my god, yeah. Hopefully it's not that one-sided, but goes both ways. Unconditional love. I don't believe it.
I mean, have managed to pick up themselves the Rift Herald. Second of the game, although the first one wasn't actually picked up. So this is going to be the first time we get to see it on the Rift in this series. Eika in bot side looking towards Nite. A little bit of poke coming down, but Nite able to just walk away.
It's Luden's Echo finally built up for Eika. You can see the item advantage. And once again, Nite, he's gone for a defensive route with the Mert Treads. So not much to fire back there in the tank.
And honestly, I want you guys to look at the map right now, because the entire bot quadrant of Rabble's
looking
jungle,
a little one-sided.
It's looking fully lit up in red. You know why? Because in 10 seconds, the third dragon will come up. LDLC have already banked 2. They want that soul point. But guess what? Sinmivak is there. They spawned their Rift Herald in the middle as well. And they're going to use their very fed Jayce to potentially push out LDLC.
They're going to try and get this charge coming through, but it looks like members are moving away. Rabble needs to be a little bit careful. That's a lot of damage from Eika. The stun comes through. beansu is here now. The fight kicks off in earnest as Dos dives away. Will be hit by the knockup from the ultimate from Jayce. Sinmivak with the damage on the Rakan. And so much is happening. It looks like Jayce is going to be able to get away from the backside as LDLC move forward. Catch the ultimate. Only lands on the Rabble, who's able to move away. And LDLC, they're fishing. They want this fight to continue. Yike jumps forward and gets the kill onto beansu. Now Rabble needs to be careful. Sinmivak returns to the fray. Ragner gets away. Burning Globe is still alive as FLICKR parting shots.
Cue the montage music. Everyone is having individual highlights in this one. Animation cancelling coming through from Sinmivak, as well from Rabble on the unstoppable force, and then Ike as well cleaning up. I mean, this fight, so many micro things to identify. In the end, priority is still around the Drake for LDLC.
The fact that the 2 main carries, Eika on the LeBlanc and Sinmivak on the Jayce, are still alive. It's so pivotal for both.
This isn't done yet though. Yike jumping, gets taken down. The dragon is secured. Rabble needs to be careful. Will be jumped on. Ike gets the kill on the other side. Sinmivak is trying to get damage down, but will be caught out as Dos takes them out. It's just like that. LDLC.
In the end, Drake will finally get picked up from a Go Rogue, but at what cost? 3 members goes down for 1 kill in exchange. And I mean, let's have a look at it again, and let's just, you know, all in it, because in the beginning, so much damage coming out. DOS being a real homie, tanking up the hook, then setting up Eika for failure afterwards with the dodge, and then the hammer slam, of course. It's so beautiful.
And then look at that, like LDLC are everywhere. They're going down the map, they're going up the map, they're going towards mid lane. They're all split up, which is exactly what you want when you've got big champions like the Ezreal, like the Ahri, like the Viego. They're fishing for this reason. They're fishing to pump all their poke on you, and especially when Sinmivak gets into the fight, we saw how much damage that Jayce can dish out. All of that CS that was given to him freely towards the top side of the map is paid dividends here, and honestly, Rabble 2 levels up on Yike as well in this particular fight. He puts up a fight, takes the dragon, very pivotal to stop soul point for LDLC.
Yeah, a little unlucky there for Yike when he jumped in. Drake reset, and his execute coming through from the isolation damage together with the smite wasn't quite there. But you're right, stopping that Drake from coming through can actually buy you so much time in a game where you were afraid you were running out of time. So a Go Rogue, they stay alive, but still at a deficit.
Yike's going fishing. Eika alongside him. They're looking towards beansu and Rabble, but need to be a little bit careful. There's a lot of CC, and you can see on the top of your screens that Nite is moving down. Eika might actually be the one that's caught out here, diving forward, looking towards the Ahri chain will land, but it's going to be Nite able to just sneak away with the ultimate, but that's not available now.
But that's not available right now, and again, it's Exakick taking down towers. Story of LDLC's life. Rabble will stick around, but again, Exakick takes another tower where LDLC are very busy somewhere else in the map. The fact that Nite doesn't have the ult means he can't go in, and you see that the follow-up is not there. If Nite was there with the ultimate, they could have been able to potentially make a pick onto that Rakan, and this is starting to become a problem, because 2 mid lane towers taken away means a lot of your vision is going to be taken away from you with it. And a Go Rogue are going to have to be very careful face-checking bushes with 2 assassins.
But at least they're not just sitting and watching while they're falling behind. They are trying to be proactive on side lanes when they can. Ragner was grouping around this at the cost of a bot lane turret. It's not going to mean much for a Go Rogue, but it does give them some priority moving into this jungle, stealing away a few camps. Once again, they're not ahead, but they're not trying to just completely roll over and die either, which is a nice side if you are a Go Rogue, an Ultra League fan as well, with your last seed playing against the LFLs. Well, first seed coming through. They have loads of them, I mean.
They have every single seed that you could possibly want.
It doesn't matter what seed it is, it's LFL.
It's an LFL team.
You know, it's a tournament favourite. We'll just call it that, as they do manage, ADC Rogue, to pick themselves up their own mid tower, so they're opening up the map a little bit as well. Of course, much deeper run in the mid lane coming from LDLC gives them a lot of time, and we've already seen how much control in the jungle they can have when it comes to vision.
Yeah, and it just comes down to, of course, the priority and aggression that's already come through from LDLC. But once again, the link up as well. I feel like they have been very good playing around Rabble, but it's Rabble leading the charge and then having his laners come around him. But on LDLC, I think they're way more proactive in terms of being the team that links up, goes together and said, "Dust, come around me right now. We're going to get some aggressive vision. We're going to back out." Whereas it's a little more proactive from the side of a Go Rogue.
And look at right now. I'm just going to show you the map real quickly. Top lane is being pushed by Eika. Mid lane was pushed by Exakick. Bot lane was pushed by Ragner. Every single time LDLC get a reset, they'll shove in the waves first, and then they'll move in to get more vision into a Go Rogue's jungle. And this makes it really easy for them to start setting up. Not for potentially even just a fight, but a pickup. You have 2 very potent assassins on your team. You've got the AD assassin in the likes of Kha'Zix, and AP assassin in the likes of the LeBlanc, who is actually level 13. The only one who's matching that is Exakick, who's been solo farming, and Sinmivak on the other side. So if you can manage to use these 2 with all the fog of war you've created for a Go Rogue, it could be a very quick pick.
Yeah, but I also think you mentioned it there, Exakick, 250 farm to Locker's 170. Yeah. He's really scary in the Xayah now, and his way of displaying the feather damage with long range is going to be very crucial in setting up this vision around the 3rd Drake coming through. Potential 3rd Drake for LDLC, of course 4th of the map. Currently bot lane gaining priority from Ragner. They're backing off mid lane, but LDLC, they still have leverage on this one. It's not completely forfeited despite a Go Rogue getting pressure in the mid lane.
Exakick going to have his back cancelled by the pressure coming through. 30 seconds, as you mentioned, with the resets. LDLC want to have full pockets when they come in to fight for this dragon. Of course, it would set themselves up for soul point again, but Eika on the upside, maybe looking to try and get an assassination, but there are too many members of Rogue. Needs to be forced to back away.
I think the most important thing right here for a Go Rogue is to spot where LeBlanc and Malphite are coming from. One, because they will assassinate you, the LeBlanc, and 2, because Rakan can create so much nuisance with the ultimate on immobile targets such as Sinmivak, who wants to carry right now onto this Jayce. They spotted both, but because that mid lane wave needs to be the priority, you need to shove that in. They have allowed Eika to slip behind their backs and hide into fog of war. Will be spotted right now.
grouping. I feel the fight is in the offing as beansu needs to be a bit careful. That's the ultimate onto 2. The trigger has been pulled as Rabble moves back. beansu's already so low. Exakick manages to escape on the side. Damage coming on down. But LDLC, they've got better health bars right now. Nite moving forward. Charm will be flashed away from as Rabble can't find the stun either. LDLC a little bit wounded, but they're going to look to control this dragon.
Already lots of ultimates used there, but still from the side of a Go Rogue, they still have that Ahri ultimate. Nope, I take that back.
Eika, damage onto LeBlanc. That's disgusting as Ezreal has to back away. Is that enough for them to stop the dragon? Yike and Exakick think so. Teleport coming through the back as well.
Now you can say that all ultimates are down for both teams. I feel like a Go Rogue just need to walk it out, boys. You just need to walk it out, boys. It's fine. It's still the third dragon. You still have soul to fight for. But when this soul comes through, we have seen how LDLC are setting up for these fights. And that was yet another fight that they set up really nicely for.
You can see how close it gets. You can see the meticulous team play as well from LDLC. Despite the fights getting messy, they stay composed. They send Ragner back. They come in with a teleport, and when the advantage is gained, well, they're just able to pick up the objective. And as she said, they go rogue, walk it off, back off, try to go some resets, get some jungle camps, get back into it, otherwise in the game.
And look at this instantly. Top wave pushing in for LDLC. Mid wave pushed in underneath tower. Bot lane wave was not pushing, but Eika and Ragnar instantly moved towards the bot side of the map to shove that into. They have been fantastic managing every single wave before every objective and after every objective, which gives them so much advantage vision-wise on the map.
And when you've got a game which, on the surface, when you just look at gold, is so close still, having this control, having this wave dominance could be crucial. Now when we look at Baron potentially being the next big objective for the next 4 minutes, being able to push. Oh, nice flash from Sinmivak. Ike's there as well. There is 2v1. What can Sinmivak do? The answer is not very much as he gets one more hammer blow. Eika gets the kill.
Very aggressive in the mid lane. They see if they can come through with a respawn. Nite dashes forward.
Chum going to be dodged away from the Exakick. Needs to be a little careful as Nite, but running forward, looking towards Yike, but he's going to jump over into the Raptor pit, and everyone leaves.
Messy fight, either way, at least from the mid lane point of view, but Sinmivak down towards that bot side, he's just overextended. He doesn't have the vision to facilitate a push down there, and he gets punished immediately.
Yeah, and it's a little bit questionable, right? Because you would expect a Jayce to be on the sideline and shoving it that hard. One, when you have vision, as you mentioned, Gulbok. And two, if there is maybe an objective going on the other side of the map and you want to force LDLC to go towards Jayce, use him as bait, and then potentially take the Baron. But none of the two was happening right there, so maybe some sort of miscommunication. Eika?
I don't know. He's got himself the passive, of course, but they know exactly which one it is because he's the one that's burning with red buff. Teleport coming on through. They still want to catch on to this LeBlanc who's running up a river. Support will be coming on through. The snipe is going to be flashed, and Eika gets away.
So flash for a teleport from Sinmivak as well. That would actually help LDLC a little bit with opening up the map. Now that they have teleport coming up in just a moment's time as well from Ragnar. So when that third Drake, or fourth Drake rather, finally comes through, they might be able to gain themselves a little more pressure. And as they go rogue, that's not a nice sign. You're already feeling the pressure of LDLC quite a bit.
Around Baron now, just getting a little bit more of that vision that we've talked about so much. LDLC try to control things as much as possible. Look how dark it is for Ago Rogue. They're using the Ezreal to scout out. Will spot LDLC members moving into that river bush, so are going to be giving a lot of respect. Of course, we've got Eika down the bot side, has teleport.
Again, you need to make sure that you know, one, where LeBlanc is if you're a Go Rogue, and two, where the Malphite is. They've spotted the Malphite. They have seen that Eika is towards the bot side of the map trying to shove in the wave. And as Gulbok mentioned previously, Eika does have the teleport up and available. But the problem is, you've got pick champions on the side of Rogue. You need the Ahri to be there to land that champ to potentially make a pick together with the Nautilus. You cannot have Nite on the side lane, which means that Eika gets to shove in for free. Again, you see the level discrepancy between the two. Eika has always been one level up, has 20 CS up as well.
Yeah, and it just comes down to the fact that a Go Rogue currently, they cannot play the open map.
The TP flank.
Okay, here we go. Let's see what you got.
What can Eika do? There's so many members of Rogue there looking towards Lucka. He's going to be able to dodge away though. Eika goes gold in the chain, won't land through, but Nite going to look for the charm. A little bit damage on the Ragnar, but it's only a little bit. The Malphite's so tanky at this point. LDLC can't make the catch work.
In the end though, Yike still around the vicinity, seeing if he can go in and counter jungle a little bit. Rabble, I think he will be forfeited. This blue buff, unless they're still looking. A Go Rogue, they're aggressive.
Oh, ultimate onto 2, that's huge. Just like dancing around trying to get the damage down, but this is all about LDLC Exakick in the backline, using the money he's been given to throw the double kill down. Rabble and Nite trying to scramble away. The Ezreal ultimate burns through, but it doesn't stop another falling. Ahri goes down. 5 members of LDLC still standing as they can push on.
And at the end for LDLC, it's not all about killing someone. They took Nite's ultimate with 1 TP from Eika. They took LeBlanc completely out of the game. They sent him back to the Founder to regen his HP, and that's where they knew Ahri is immobile at this point, and we're playing 4v5. We're engaging.
And it also just goes to show, even with Ahri being first pick from the side of Nite, taking it away from Eika, Eika very comfortable playing that LeBlanc matchup into it, and he's been doing that nicely ever since the laning phase, went out on the favorable trades. Now, when we have an open map state in this mid to late game, well, he's also the one excelling his pressure. You can't help but feel that at Go Rogue, they're just crumbling to it right now.
And again, I think that Malphite catch was so good because he's waiting until all three are bounced up at the same place. And you see how LDLC are just coming from every single direction you can think of. Again, you know that Ahri doesn't have the ultimate up and available, and they just pick them off one by one since the Ezreal isn't there yet.
But also, it's way too far up being there. I mean, you already saw them around. You didn't have vision on your left flank either, so it allowed LDLC to come in where you just drew those arrows. So can't say the setup was phenomenal, but a Go Rogue. Luckily, this is a best of 5. You got room for adaptation, but right now, completely LDLC favored.
It was really clever here from a Go Rogue to sneak in, steal the dragon instantly away. You guys mentioned how important it would be for the Malphite to have that Mountain Soul on him as well, get so tanky. Rabble, I think you mentioned that yourself as well. So denying that right now when you fall in behind you, when you're 4,000 gold in deficit, I think is so important. You've just gained yourself another 5 minutes and you're trying to fend off a Baron, right? 4 members on the top side for LDLC, 1 in the mid lane, they're trying to cash in.
I was going to say, you're going to get that extra 5 minutes, but what's your base going to look like? We've already seen the dominance of side lanes coming through. Sinmivak is trying to gain a little bit of gold on the side and give themselves a bit of territory in the bot side. But look, LDLC are crashing into the base. Jayce, you've got to go back. As the ultimate comes on through, LeBlanc is gone. beansu needs to be careful, going to be knocked up, gets his ultimate through as Nite throws down the charm. Exakick on the side now needs to get the damage through. We need to see what the Xayah can provide. Sinmivak's going to get a bit of poke down, but it looks like it's just going to be an inhibitor that's going to be destroyed.
First inhibitor falls here. Wonder if they can keep going. Ultimate low over on the side of LDLC, but they still have DOS if he wants to engage.
Baron, the tower's going to be taken low by these Baron minions. The first one might even fall. It's Rogue. You're going to be on a timer, people. You need to get moving as Rabble gets taken to half health, rooted up, but will be able to survive. A nice snipe from Sinmivak might be enough to dissuade the LDLC, but they've got minions pushing in mid. Again, they're perfect with these minion waves.
It doesn't hurt that much. The Ezreal is down, the poke is landing from the Jayce, but that's about it. They use their Baron so well, pushing towards the top side. They're like, one of the big targets of ours is not here, because Sinmivak is pushing top lane tower, bot lane tower, sorry. And then if we cut FLICKR out, and then we take the other poke champion away, we can just shove in the base really quickly. That has been their objective from the start. Take FLICKR out of the fight, or kill him off while Sinmivak is on the side, and then we can siege.
And playing the map now just becomes even more difficult. They Go Rogue, at least they're able to put down that bot side, but since the LDLC, they're playing on 2 lanes, they got the mid lane inhibitor, or they got the top lane inhibitor, got the mid lane turret outside of the inhibitor. Now they can play on 2 lanes again, but this time around they're going to do it on the bot side and the mid lane. And now if Sinmivak wants to play on these side lanes, well, he's going to be playing up against super minions on the top side, slowing a Go Rogue down even further, making matters even more difficult for them.
And honestly, it's a case of, I'm looking at this Go Rogue side and thinking, what can you actually do in this situation? You've lost out on pretty much every objective. Yes, you've slowed down that dragon for a couple of minutes, but if LDLC are still in this game, having not taken the Nexus by then, surely that's sold and surely that's curtains.
I think the problem right here is that Eika has been left to his own devices the entire time. Right now, the Jayce cannot side lane. That's a level 16 LeBlanc.
Ooh, Ragner's going to have to go golden, but now Go Rogue, what are they going to do? They decide to back away. They get a small resource.
Fine.
But that's it.
You're not even sure you had to go golden there, but he just does it so they can keep up the tempo. And now, once again, playing 2 lanes. 1 mid lane coming through there. You can see Yike pushing it further down towards the rest of LDLC. They're pushing it. On top side, it's the super minions.
They're going to be a defense. Nite moving forward, looking towards Ragner. Manages to get the charm. If they can take out the Malphite, that could be worthwhile. He's going to flash away. Yike's, of course, up on that top side. LDLC giving some respect still. Going to move away as the minions will crash into the Nexus Tower.
It's not completely timed, though. Mid lane waves comes in. Will the pressure be there from LDLC too? Eika moving up. His auto attacks are going to be doing a fair bit amount of damage. Rabble trying to stop it.
No one is there to defend. I think our Go Rogue are just looking for a pick right there, but everyone is so slippery, and you saw that Malphite had to ult and flash away. He's backing to attack everything that Rogue might have left.
Keep your eyes out for this Ragnar ultimate, because you've got a feel that's going to be what starts off this fight. Once again, it's been the case the entire game. Ragnar has been starting everything, as it looks like the inhibitors are all gone. LDLC are going to push forward again.
There is a slight problem when you're playing a poke composition with Ezreal and Jayce. Your poke doesn't go past minions. There's going to be double super minions on every single lane from the side of LDLC and 5 champions that want you dead together with your Nexus.
Oh, this is very aggressive, though. It's one minion wave. They're trying to siege on, but they continue with it. But Ahri wave play should be coming through. Okay.
Keep your eyes on Ragner. What's going to look for? The ultimate onto 2. They catch them out. They take them down. Sinmivak going golden, but will it keep him alive? It's not going to help the rest of his team, though, as Rabble has to dive away. Actually going to go down. Double kill to Exakick. And just like that, LDLC, they still can't fall as they're going to take the first game of this Amazon European Masters semi-final.
And what is that now? What is that now? 10-0 that this team is in this Amazon European Masters. I'm not going to say that this was a clinic, but damn, if you look at the bot side of the map, 6-0 and 5, you last Exakick, you'll be like, it was never even close.
I mean, you definitely see the differences as some of the laners coming through there. The bot laners we mentioned there, who wasn't part of the action, also the team fighting, but also the mid laners from the get-go. I think Rabble did manage to make the game competitive, though, with the amount of kills that he got. And I think some of it also just came down to that setup. Throughout the fights, around the third Drake, all those things, the fights were close. And it came down to a lot of micro, too. Like, we saw a lot of mechanical prowess come through from the players. But in the end, LDLC, they were the better team, and they had the better individuals as well.
Absolutely. LDLC just secured their 10th win in a row, and after the break, the analyst desk will tell you exactly how they did it.
Exakick, déjà commencé?
De se balader jusque vers le bot lane, mais Reckless maintenant est couvert par la wave.
Dobra, najważniejsze jest to. Agoro wychodzi z tej grupy.
Vamos a ver si puede cerrar aquí el partido Fnatic.
Vamos ganando, hijo.
Porque es Fnatic sin queso.
And they're going to take that last victory home.
And they advance to the Amazon EU Masters Finals. They take that Nexus and they get their rewards. Just like you. Have you got your rewards yet? Look at your phone. You got this week's rewards.
What did you guys get?
I got a Teemo skin. Not bad.